Turn on your volume, and welcome to Evision Live with Dr. Alexandra Kleeberg
and Dietrich Busaka. Welcome to your healthy, happy, fulfilled life.
We continue with episode 18 on values and tools, and more specifically on the theme of authenticity. Authenticity, what is this, Alexandra?
Authenticity means that you're yourself, you're honest, you're clear, you're in your center, and you express your emotions however they are.
Okay, but what had this to do with self-healing, to do with potential development?
Authenticity is the basis for self-healing as I experience it. It's a basis for relationships. It's a basis for community. Without authenticity, we play roles and we're not ourselves. So if I'm not myself in a relationship and the other person isn't his or herself either, then we don't really have a relationship. We have two role players that might manage to get along or might play a drama, but it's not our authentic self. And for self-healing, I think it's one of the most important qualities we need. I think when we play roles, it leads to dis-ease most of the time. Let me explain that idea.
Yes.
When we are very, very little, we are very authentic. Like little babies, they scream when they don't like something, they cry when they feel alone, they laugh and giggle when they feel excited. So they are very, very honest in their emotional expression and they are very authentic. And for me, those little children are the gurus of self-healing therapy, because we need to go back to that. Once these children get so-called educated, they get into kindergartens and schools, they are taught actually to be somebody else. Sometimes it even starts in families, that once a child is maybe 1 or 2 years old and it screams, the mother says, "Don't scream, you're a bad boy." Or if you cry, the father says, "Don't cry, you're a bad girl," or whatever. Or somebody might, a little child might fall down in a supermarket and screams and yells and cries. And the mother says, "Don't
be quiet, behave, in school,
and so
behave."
forth.
Yeah.
So we are educated in a way that we should not express our true feelings. We are educated in a way not to be authentic. And so we learn to play roles. I'm, as you might know, from a Prussian family, and it was very shameful to express feelings. It was nothing a good person should do. Expressing feelings, then you are hysterical or you are unstable or something like that. That was the Prussian judgment. So I learned to be controlled at a very, very early age. And when I fell on my knees, I said, "Oh, that's okay. It doesn't hurt." Or when I got maybe a girlfriend of mine left and she moved to another city, I said, no problem. And I suppressed
You didn't express your sadness. Yeah.
I didn't express my sadness. I didn't express my anger. And even joyful feelings, to be excited or so, was, "Oh, don't put you into the center too much. Don't." Yes, it was judged also. So I also expressed my joy, and I became a very controlled, rational child. And for many years, I was maybe 10 to 17 years old, they said, "Oh, this is the intellectual in the family." Yes, I didn't really like it. It was supposed to be something good, but it didn't really feel good. And so we learn to decenter ourselves. In German, we have a word for that. It means verrückt, and verrückt also means crazy.
Crazy.
So decenter in German means crazy. So I always tell my people we live in a verrückt, a crazy society when we play roles.
When you roll, you have decentered from your middle.
Decentered from our authentic middle.
Mm-hmm.
And this leads to a lot of diseases or not feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it leads to emptiness because we are not ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes we don't even know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Then with all these suppression of feelings, it might lead to depression, it might lead to anxiety. In a sense, we are fearful of our own feelings to come up. And it might also lead, if we suppress these feelings into our body, to psychosomatic symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So being not authentic can be very sickening.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I would say so, yeah.
And I believe that a lot of modern diseases comes out of these suppression of feelings and not being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
This role playing is we split ourselves in two. And so both don't have the full energy. And one of the sentences I like to say is there is the most powerful place in the world is in our own swinging center. Mm-hmm. When we are authentic, when we are in harmony with ourselves, when we are integer, then we are rooted into our own power, and then our potential can develop. Mm-hmm. Potential can't develop from role playing. Mm-hmm. It can only develop out of our own center of our own being. Mm-hmm. And so it's very, very helpful in self-healing processes to go back to this archetype of childhood, to be authentic again, to express emotions immediately, to be spontaneous, to be creative, to be curious, and to wonder, to see the miracles of the world again.
When have you been for the last time a child?
Inside.
So, but what is the point of what? How can I get there to this back to this authenticity or this childhood? Like I've been educated for almost 18 years.
Not to be yourself.
Not to be myself. I even paid for going to college not to be myself, to learn another role, to learn to create a facade. I've done it. I've really sweated to get there. And now you tell me I have to get rid of all this just to be healthy and to go back to childhood likeness.
Yes, that's the drama of modern education, that we learn things that aren't really good for us. They aren't healthy. They don't feel good. And they might help us build a facade, a cage of norms. And it takes blood and sweat and tears to decenter. Yes, because the whole body wants to scream, to yell, to jump, and we can't do that. So there's a lot of frustration, disappointment, psychic pain involved, and we went through this blood and sweat and tears over years until we got this shiny facade. And then the symptoms come or might come, and they tell us, oh, there's something wrong with this facade or the way you live. And I'm telling the people, well, you have to break it all down.
Yeah, and you have to ask the symptom. Maybe the symptom knows the answer.
Yes. The symptom does know the answer. For my image is that in the symptom is the inner child. Carl Gustav Jung said the solution is in the symptom. So it really makes sense to look at this symptom. And sometimes I have the image when people come with stomach pain or so, there's a little baby sitting in the stomach and screaming, or if they have a heart attack, there's a little child yelling for its life or crying for its life, or if they have big glasses, there is a little child in the eyes and it's very stiff and afraid. So I think the inner child, the energy is in the symptom. But for the ego, it's humiliating to build up all this beautiful facade.
Yeah.
And I tell them, well, you can use the stones with which you have built it up. You have built up you have learned to speak, to calculate, to think.
To write,
to write. You have learned all sorts of tools, and those tools are the stones of the facade. And the first step is to build the basement, the foundation. And then you can use whatever you learn to build up your building again. So that will go fast. But first you have to destroy it, sort of, what you have built up. And it's a humiliation for the ego. It doesn't like to do that. I have learned so many facades over the years. I don't want to get rid of them.
Okay, it's now how can we get there? Back to our authenticity, or this
I think
inner
the
child.
first thing is to feel our emotions. That's what a little child does. And the gurus of self-healing are the children for me. It's not the psychologist, the doctor, or the healer. It's the little child before it gets educated.
So feeling our real emotions and getting back to this real
feel
emotions.
Our anger, feel our sadness, feel our joy, feel our whatever there is, whatever there wants to come up. And to really feel it and to let it out. And in one of the next Evision lives, I will tell how you can get rid of your emotions in a social accepted way. Because little children, they don't really think what their crying might do to others. They just let it out. And emotions comes from emovere. It means, e means X, and movere, move out. So in the sense of the word is that emotions should be moved out.
By the way, you have a beautiful video on YouTube on letting go all these emotions.
Yes. Maybe we can put a link there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
15-minute video to go all through all different kinds of emotions and then back to inner peace.
Okay.
So
let's come back to the inner child.
If you want to be really alive, it goes back to emotions, and from that to the inner child, and to your own authenticity. And I sometimes have people in the group and they say, oh, I'm so... I have a husband who is so bad, so mean, or I have a CEO who is so terrible, and I really told him that honestly. And I said, this is not real authenticity when you blame somebody. First part is you don't take responsibility. But secondly is when you judge somebody to be bad or mean or terrible, it's psychologically, it's a projection. You're not in your feelings. And being authentic is to say, I feel hurt, I'm angry, I'm upset, and so forth. So judgment is nothing which helps us to be more authentic. Actually,
but I imagine it's quite difficult to get out of it, not to judge. We had it in the last episode. We're talking about this question. But I would say, Alexandra, you're really radical in this position.
Yes,
what
it's
you're
a
taking.
judgment.
That's a judgment.
That's a judgment, but I think I like it. I'm radical in this position.
Yeah, well, and my feeling actually, then my emotion in this case, I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling a little bit.
Judgment
How can I do with it?
Security gives power, gives how do you call that?
Brings you lets you feel superior to the other.
Lets you feel superior, but it's avoiding authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
It's avoiding. People might say, "Oh, I think he is terrible, and I told him that in an honest way." And this is not really honesty because you're not aligned with your emotion.
Yeah, it's not your emotion.
You try to feel superior in a moment where you don't feel superior.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
So authenticity means getting to know how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
And in the group, sometimes people come with judgment. I have this terrible husband. And I said, what do you feel? And sometimes they say, I don't know. I just feel he's terrible.
Yeah.
I say, what is your feeling? And yes, I feel he's terrible.
What is
that's
your
not
feeling?
a feeling, that's a judgment. And then the group helps and says, maybe I would feel disappointed, I would feel inferior, I feel upset or whatever. So it's really important to come back to our feelings and to express them without judgment. So that means authenticity.
And then taking responsibility for your feelings.
Exactly.
This is 100% responsibility.
Yes, but that's
we were
not
talking
the
about
archetype of childhood.
No.
That's the archetype of awakening. The archetype of childhood is just to feel and to let out emotions.
Okay.
And then to be open again. If a child gets hurt, maybe because it falls on the ground, it screams, it yells, maybe for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after 15 minutes, it's playing cheerfully again. So it's really these emotions that come and go and come and go. And this is this slow flow of emotions. And we really want to go back to that. We don't have to tell it everybody. That's not necessary, but it's necessary to express it in my own way to get it out. So we go back to to harmony, and then maybe the next emotion comes.
So we're talking about the inner child. So if you have experiences with your inner child, please leave your comment below here. And Alexandra, I have a question. If I didn't have a nice childhood, I think there are many people in your groups who came with trauma, with whatever. How can I then get back to this archetype of childhood? How can I work with it? How can I find my inner child? I imagine that's quite difficult, because if I have bad experiences, bad memories of my childhood, how can I deal with that?
Well, you can come back to the inner child. That's maybe it's sad, maybe it's disappointed, maybe it's fearful. You can go back to that. It's no problem.
But then I have just a relatively negative inner child. I think, let's say we're talking about
sadness is not a negative. It's for me, sadness, it's just a flow or anger. But it might not feel so good. But you can go back and comfort it and take it to your arms and rock it and soothe it so it can find back into harmony.
So give him the love that you maybe the parents at that time didn't give him.
Yes. And then it can open up and maybe you reinvent a new childhood with your inner child.
Okay, beautiful. Well, you had also an exercise that you brought with you for this episode.
It's just a very little exercise that you can do without an MP3 or something. It's not a long guided imagination. For me, the archetype of childhood, the symbol is the heart.
Why is the heart?
the babies have an open heart.
An open heart, okay.
They are honest, they are authentic, that's why most of the people love babies. But not so many people love grown-ups. I think probably 80% of the people like babies, but not 80% of the people would say they like grown-ups. Right?
Yeah.
So there's something very special to babies. And so I think it's the heart, it's the archetype of childhood is symbolized by the heart, a big heart, where the whole universe shines through. And this little exercise will help you to see the world through the eyes of your inner child again, and to see the miracles that there are, to be spontaneous again, to be creative again and playful.
What are the qualities of the inner child, maybe to wrap up?
It's to marvel, it's to play, it's to be honest, to be authentic, to be emotional, to be spontaneous, to be curious, to be full of crazy ideas. So these are some of the qualities.
And maybe you can add some more below here.
And they are treasures for self-healing. They are real treasures for longevity, and they are treasures for vitality as well.
So Alexandra, please share your exercise with us.
It's just a very, very, very little exercise. It's 1 minute maybe, and you can do it when you stand in a queue or when you wait for something, or maybe even when you sit on the toilet, or when you don't know what you want to do. It's just a small exercise, so please close your eyes. Breathe in and out through your heart. That's the place of your authenticity and all your love. Imagine in the middle of your heart is a golden stairway down, and from the very bottom you see a shining light. And you get curious about this light, and you go down the stairs. And with every step downward, you go back in time. 1 year and another year and 5 years. And 10 years, until you reach the ground. And on this ground of your unconsciousness, you see a child, and it's enlightened by this warm, shining light. Yes, you see yourself pure, innocent, full of joy, full of laughter. And you go to that child and take its hands and look into its eyes. You look into pureness. You look into innocence. You look into joy, you look into deep love. And please ask your child, again, anew, show me the world through your own eyes, so I can start to marvel again at the wonders of life. And you let yourself be guided by this child. So something like that you can do every once in a while over the day to get more cheerful, more joyful, more spontaneous, more authentic, and more pure.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Alexandra, for this beautiful exercise. So you can practice it, and please leave your takeaways down here, and we hope to see you again next Tuesday at the same time.
And if I would connect now with my inner child, I
Yay!
would love to have many likes.
Yippee, yippee.
And open your heart and start.
Thank you so much.